Hey, it's Doris with All New Books, and I am here with the second half of my March wrap-up. I read 6 more books in the last week and a half or so of the month, and I wanted to share those with you today, finally. I think I tried this last weekend, but I wasn't in the right headspace, so this is attempt number 2. Jumping right in. I read Whittington by Alan Armstrong. This is a Newbery Honor winner from, I think 06 maybe? I don't remember. But this is, you're going to hit this trend a lot in historical fiction. This is a dual timeline. So it doesn't really say, but the modern timeline is possibly in England. And it's not quite current history. It's a little bit older school, so maybe in the 50s or something-ish. And then the historical timeline is more medieval times and circles around this historical figure named Richard Whittington, and his cat is telling the story. Well, a descendant of his cat is telling the story, because apparently Richard Whittington was known for having a cat, or that myth is circulating. So this was good from, I would say, a child's perspective. I can see kids being interested. This, however, is not one that translates well to adult readers. It was kind of boring. I'm just going to get that out there. But it's written more also for lower middle grades as well. It's not an upper grade middle school book. But just the pacing and everything, it wasn't quite as charming as some of the ones that I recommend. But the story, I think it's a very good one. It centers around a little boy who's having trouble learning to read, and how his sister and the barn animals try to help him learn to read. And then this cat comes on the scene and joins the barn animals and becomes part of the crew and shares the stories that his mother told him. And it's got really cute pictures throughout. So yeah, I mean, definitely for a cat book, it's pretty cute. But anyway, there's that one. And then I read The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gowar, and this one is definitely an adult book. This one is set in 1785, and it deals with a merchant who runs a shipping business, and how his ship is sold by his captain in exchange for this mermaid, kind of a taxidermied mermaid, if you will, babyish. And also the storyline of an aging courtesan who has lost her, well, I forget the word, her lover slash provider, and he's passed away without leaving her in his will, and so she must find new ways to keep herself in business, if you will. Yeah, this was delightfully rompy. I thoroughly enjoyed the atmosphere and the historical perspectives and how she wrote of it. I enjoyed reading the characters, and just great fun. I felt like on a literary level that she was really, really trying to go somewhere with this. Maybe some commentary about feminism, etc. But she kind of loses her way in her own writing. I don't know. She just didn't quite get there for me. It's foggy. There's actually fog, melancholy. It's so melancholic toward the end, and she just never quite makes it there for me. But overall, I did really, really enjoy this. It was more of a 4-star and didn't quite make it to the 5-star mark, is what I'm saying. But really fun, and I mean, so stunning. So very stunning. And then we had Green Darkness by Anya Seton. this one was super cool. I read this with Bree. I never would have thought to pick it up. It's a backlisted book, quite a bit backlisted. 1972, first published. But I read this with Bree, and we thoroughly enjoyed this, and Katie as well. But Bree had suggested it to me. Actually, she suggested it on Twitter, so follow Bree for good book recommendations. She's reading one right now that is piquing my interest. But this one, and I'm not sure of the years because I'm not up on this history very well, but I'm very mesmerized by it now and intend to read more books set in this time period because of this book. But it was set during the reign of the boy king, Edward VI. I think he lasted for 6 years maybe. And then the 9-day reign of Lady Jane Grey, and then her half-sister, Elizabeth I. So this is another dual timeline with the storyline. The modern times are set current-ish times, well, 72, let's say, and it deals with reincarnation. I know, but it totally made a really neat vehicle for getting this dual storyline across. It gave a lot more layers to the story than it normally would have, because you were looking to see how the historical figures were playing into the modern times and vice versa, looking for their characteristics of the past. So it really added a neat layer between the two timelines. Most of it is told through the historical timeline. We were both kind of, all three of us were kind of shocked at how little she left for the modern time to be wrapped up in the end, but how effectively she did it. So yes, way cool. And the thing from a historical perspective that I was so interested in was how the political nature of the Church of England and the Catholic Church and their influence and the Protestant Reformation, how that all affected the average citizen at the time. So this was dealing with the turmoil between the different monarchies and their allegiances to the different churches. And it was just really neat the way she used that in this story, and just shed a lot of light on it for me. I found it fascinating completely. So then I switched gears and I went to John Steinbeck's The Pearl. And this little novella, Steinbeck is such a brilliant writer. He is such a master of the craft. So this is not a heartwarming story by any means. A lot of Steinbeck's are not. This one, quite a bit so. This centers around the biblical idea of the pearl of great price. So it's a fisherman who finds the pearl of great price because he has a great need for it. He goes out searching for it. It's set in, I would say, northern Mexico near California, because that's where Steinbeck writes from what he's familiar with. And it's just a teeny little fishing village, and, you know, I would say poverty-stricken peoples, but this is a different time, and these are people that are living within their means the way they know how to live. So, you know, our perspective of what poverty is looking in is completely different from, you know, how people live and know sometimes. So, yes. I don't want to go into any detail really, other than it's the man, his wife and son, and how they confront wealth and greed and how it affects them. I don't want to say anything else because it's, you know, teeny weeny. It's not even 100 pages, and I don't want to spoil anything. But I will say that the brilliance in this novel is in the story arc, the composition of it. I mean, other than his writing is always gorgeous. But the story composition here, like, he's got this one paragraph that I read in one of my vlogs recently that is just a complete little microcosm of the story as a whole. Fascinating. And then there's an event that happens at the beginning that kind of sets all of this in motion, and an event that happens at the end to kind of tie it off and take it back to the beginning. So these two events bookend the story. They're both violent, I will say. But it's just masterful to reflect on that event at the end and realize how it plays into the one in the beginning. This is just, Steinbeck is so smart. Then, I'll wait. I'll come back to this one. Just a second. So, then I read Red Rosa, which just played in so nicely, and I'll tell you why when I get back to it. But this is a book about Rosa Luxemburg, who was one of the revolutionary socialist thinkers of the early 1900s. And I saw this on Mel's channel from Mel's Bookland Adventures and was intrigued by it because I'm really into historical graphic novels. And this one is not a disappointment. I really enjoyed it. Like, her art is fabulous. This one is neat, right? The ox, but as you get closer, wow, right? She really plays with scale and perspective. And I think she really gets into the Rosa's personality with her drawings. Really good. The art with the story, spot on. And I liked the way she wrote this. So, you know, no matter your thoughts politically, this makes you think and have thoughts, and that's something that I enjoy from books a great deal. I would highly recommend this if you are into historical fiction. I've found that a lot of graphic novels, I'm just kind of gotten into them last year, and I don't as much care for just the storyline ones, more comic book ones, but historical fiction really works well in this format for me. It just distills the historical events and thoughts down to a more minute timeline where they don't get lost in the words, and it really sticks with me really well that way, rather than reading a full-length 600-page autobiography about, or biography about Rosa. This kind of sticks with me. Not that I'm opposed to that. I do that too, but this really, this format really makes it stick in my mind. So there's that. And then I finished up the month with another Steinbeck, The Moon is Down. And the thing I wanted to mention about these as well, these are Penguin 20th Century Classics is what they're called. And normally I have found that I do not read the introductions to all these classics because they spoil the story for you, and they just are kind of redundant and dry and boring. However, these were excellent. I didn't read all the introduction because I was kind of in a hurry to get going with the stories, but I read probably 3 or 4 pages, 5 of each one, and they were so informative. The thing that I really appreciated about them was that they got into details right away about where Steinbeck was in his life when he wrote each one and why he wrote the stories. So Steinbeck's work is very self-reflective. He's very much a socialist thinker, which is how it tied in well with Red Rosa. And very self-reflective of himself, and also reflective of the country in which he lived and his society, and just processing that. So he wrote Tortilla flat right after the success of Grapes of Wrath, and how overwhelmed he was with commercial success, and just he almost felt harassed by it and didn't really understand, couldn't process it. And so this was kind of his take on, you know, the pearl of great price. You know, all of that wealth and notoriety comes with a price, and this, you know, is his kind of reflection on those thoughts. Very interesting to know that. And then this one was actually written as pure war propaganda. Yes. So this was written during World War II and was circulated in Europe in hiding, yeah, for the war effort. So thought that was way cool and enjoyed this as well. So this one is, it's set in World War II-ish, but you're never really told what country it's in. He deliberately leaves that vague, so that it's less about the politics of each site and more about the concepts of war and how it affects people and how people react to being in the invaded country. So yeah, highly recommend John Steinbeck. He is the man. And outside of that first little middle grades novel that, you know, would be good if you've got a kid, but you probably wouldn't want to be interested unless you were maybe a diehard cat lover like me. The rest of these were just, I highly recommend. So thanks for watching, and I will be back soon. Bye.